I did see President Clinton at the Phoenix airport as I was leaving, and he spoke to myself and my husband on the plane. Our conversation was a great deal about his grandchildren. It was primarily social and about our travels. He mentioned the golf he played in Phoenix.
All right, that was Loretta Lynch describing the half-hour meeting in Bill Clinton's plane on a tarmac in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, what's interesting about this, that even somebody like David Axelrod, who ran the Obama campaign, said that it's foolish given the investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server. And, of course, he's a former senior advisor to Obama. And Axelrod said, well, I take Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton at their word that their conversation in Phoenix didn't touch on Emailgate and the probe, but it was foolish to create such optics. Senator John Cornyn, Senate Majority Whip, also noted a potential conflict of interest, tweeting that Lynch must avoid even the appearance of conflict. Anyway, Donald Trump has spoken out, and he is ripping into this, and some are saying, wait a minute, this is now too close to the vest. She may have to recuse herself when, in fact, the investigation into the email server scandal is ultimately ended. Let's see what happens here. Anyway, joining us now is Jay Sekulow, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice. Danielle McLaughlin is an attorney, constitutional expert, co-wrote the Federalist Society, How Conservatives Took the Law Back from Liberals. Welcome, both of you.
Hey, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
All right. Now, knowing that James Comey has said repeatedly that this is a criminal investigation and that whatever he finds in terms of his investigation will eventually be sent to Loretta Lynch, how inappropriate is it for the husband of the person being investigated to sit on a plane in a tarmac alone with her?
It's unethical. It violates 28 Code of Federal Regulation 45.2, which prohibits the DOJ employee, including the Attorney General, from participating in a criminal investigation or prosecution if he or she has reason or has a personal or political relationship with any person or organization substantially involved in the conduct that is subject of the investigation or prosecution. So she violates 28 CFR 45.2 from the moment they met on Monday or Tuesday in that airplane to now. She can't do it. So she has to recuse herself. If she doesn't, she's violating the canon of ethics. And frankly, Sean, we're going to file the complaint with the professional responsibility section of the Department of Justice. And this is also, I think, a significant
you're talking about
matter
ethics.
right now.
What about as a matter of law?
Yeah. No, I think she's disqualified. Not I think. She is disqualified because of that rule. Because of 28.452, it prohibits a DOJ employee from being involved in it. That's the ethical standard, but the action is it prohibits her from being involved. She is done with this case. Frankly, should probably go a lot more than that. She is completely cast a shadow and taint on this investigation that is irreplaceable and not redeemable at this point.
But they're not exactly people that follow the law. I mean, for example, the Supreme Court just upheld a lower court decision, and the president, as it relates to his unconstitutional illegal actions, executive order on amnesty, and the president basically said he's not going to abide by the court decision.
Yeah, and of course, he doesn't have that option. But let me say something else here, Sean. Bill Clinton is a calculating guy. Think about this for a moment. He gets off of his airplane, finds out Loretta Lynch is coming in, then arranges to go onto her airplane, and let's say they just discuss personal matters, just family. The Ministry of Presence, his presence there sends volumes. Did they shake? Did they hug? The discussion is almost irrelevant. What is relevant is he was able to do that, and that Loretta Lynch agreed to let him do that. Absurd. She can't be the Attorney General for this case.
So I want to ask you a question. Do you think this was done by design? Maybe he got tipped off that Loretta Lynch was inclined to move forward if there's a criminal referral, and he was worried about it, and he wanted somebody else appointed to the case?
Our team today discussed that very fact because Bill Clinton is smart, he's calculating, and he looks for results. And just walking on that plane may well have sent that message or established it, or maybe he created the fall person for this prosecution, so to speak, and that becomes the Attorney General.
Sean, I'd like to jump in here. And you know what? I'm completely in agreement with you, Jay. This was completely inappropriate. I'm a Democrat, right? But the optics, the decision, the lapse of judgment here on both sides is inappropriate. And as a Democrat, I don't want any more clouds over this investigation. I want the appearance of objectivity. I want an objective investigation. So I don't think Bill Clinton was calculating, because this is bad for Hillary. This is another scandal that is blowing up. I agree that Loretta Lynch should recuse herself from this investigation, because we want what you want, and that's an objective investigation.
All right, so...
But go ahead, Sean.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, here's the thing, though. He is a guy that weighs here are the consequences if I do actions, here's the action. This is a guy that's made his entire political career, his political life has been weighing things. He didn't walk on that plane. He did not walk on that plane not thinking about the consequence. And what's so outrageous here, it's not just the appearance of the impropriety. It's the message, as you just said, the message that it sends. But this is a guy that spent his life weighing the consequences of actions. And here he took that action. She is the presumptive Democratic nominee, and I'll take it a step further. Sean, Bill Clinton may well be a witness or, who knows, a defendant in any action that were to rise out of the Clinton Foundation or the email investigation. Either one. So Loretta Lynch, lapse of judgment's an understatement, but Bill Clinton's a calculating guy. And that's my statement. Now, Bill Clinton did appoint her, Loretta Lynch, as the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York. So is it a political favor? But again, the optics, forget the optics. I mean, I get the optics. It's the matter of fact. It violates the law. You're prohibited under DOJ's own guidelines from being the lawyer on that case.
Right. No, Loretta Lynch is not a particularly political person. You know, you think about a Giuliani, perhaps, or a Chris Christie. You know, as far as federal prosecutors go,
how can you say she's not a political person? She met with Bill Clinton on her airplane.
Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Her long history of service. I'm not going to besmirch her, and I think she made a bad call. But her long history demonstrates that she's not particularly political. I think it was a bad call, but this doesn't mean that she's a terrible person or a calculating person.
I'm not saying she's a terrible person. I'm not saying she's calculating. I'm saying Bill Clinton's calculating. And let me tell you something. A bad call. This was a baseball game. Okay, a bad call. You know, the umpire. This isn't a bad call. This is an investigation, a criminal investigation that is going on that includes the former Secretary of State, who's the presumptive Democratic nominee for president, and Bill Clinton goes on an airplane, the DOJ airplane, with the Attorney General who's supposed to be in charge of this. That's more than a bad call. It's more than bad optics. It's not legal under the DOJ's own rules and regulations.
I'm just how does this even benefit Bill Clinton by blowing this up?
Because if he's concerned that she may pull the trigger on an investigation, if James Comey's office, the FBI, recommends a criminal referral, and he's worried that somehow she might end up going forward with it, well, then what do? Get her off the case. I don't have any evidence of that, by the way. I'm just saying the atmospherics point to something else here, because this is a guy that has successfully made his life, one way or another, based on calculations.
Danielle, what's your response to that?
I mean, I think you're reaching, Jay, and as you've said, you have no evidence of this. There's no reason to believe that if she was to recuse herself.
But wait a minute,
why did he do it?
But they're all smart people. Wait a minute. He knows his wife's under investigation. He knows James Comey has clarified it's a criminal investigation. So he knows that Loretta Lynch is going to eventually be involved in this case. So he's not stupid. You can say a lot of things about him. I mean, maybe he's irresponsible, reckless, but he's not stupid. So it seems to me that this was a conscious choice on his part, and I don't know if we'll ever really know the reasons, but there may be some fear in the back of his mind about Loretta Lynch that she may not go along and play ball, and if Comey recommends a criminal referral, she's going to convene a grand jury, for crying out loud.
Well, could you imagine, Sean, if that happened? I mean, let's just take what you just said. Let's say that the criminal reference comes from the FBI, and now Loretta Lynch says, I'm not going to proceed. Now, does anybody, including Democrats, I know you're a Democrat, does anybody believe that in light of this, that is going to be something that leaves not just a bad taste in everyone's mouth, but shows a complete callous disregard for our system of justice? No one, if the FBI were to move forward and Loretta Lynch says no, after this nonsense on an airplane in Arizona, no one is going to believe that there's not something corrupt going on here.
She has to recuse herself. I'm with you 100%. She has to recuse herself.
Well, she's saying she doesn't. But she's saying she doesn't. She said it was just a conversation among friends, which, by the way, is exactly what is the reason you do have to recuse yourself when you do that.
All right, let me ask, why is this investigation taking so long? Can anyone put this together? Because you've got to believe, I mean, from everything I've heard, from everybody that knows Comey, and his past actions, even going to the hospital room of John Ashcroft and threatening to resign on principle when George Bush was president. He knows that there's a political timeline in play here. Now, we've had as many as 50 to some odd agents working on this case. They apparently recovered the 33,000 deleted emails. I know the investigation, according to our reports at Fox, have now gone even further into the Clinton Foundation. But at some point, if there's evidence of wrongdoing and law breaking, and I believe there is, doesn't he have to pay attention to the political clock for the benefit of the country?
He doesn't, because the FBI has to operate outside of political consequences or political timeframes. And what you've got right now, I believe, Sean, which is what you've been saying.
So if he finds the information the week of the Democratic convention, he's going to come out that week with a criminal referral, potentially.
If I believe, I know James Comey, I believe that if his agents put together a case, he reviews that case and determines that it is adequate to prosecute, that he's not going to operate under a timetable of whether there's a DNC convention or not. What he will do, I believe, is if there is evidence, he will present that to the Attorney General, who now has to disqualify herself, recuse herself, for prosecution. Let me take it a step further here. And this is, I think, something we have to underscore. There is also, and I think part of the time frame here, Sean, is this started out just about an email and a server, and it's broadened. We know that. Now there's the questions about the Clinton Foundation. So we don't know the scope of the FBI's inquiry, but it's significant. When I worked with Treasury, as a lawyer at Treasury, when we put together these criminal cases for DOJ, it was extensive, and they were long time frames. So I think they're looking at a lot of information here. They're going to take the evidence where it leads. But, Loretta Lynch has said that this is she's not going to interfere negatively with this, but she did. So, I'm not trying to besmirch her as a person. But you're calling it a lack of judgment. I'm saying it's unethical conduct.
I'm going to jump in here. And I agree that these prosecutions do take their time. I've been involved with them on the defense side. I know that you've been involved in them on the prosecutorial side. And back to Comey. Comey's a stand-up guy, as you say. Ashcroft, standing up for the NSA surveillance, standing up for the Fourth Amendment. Going back to your suggestion that Clinton did this on purpose. Even if you get rid of Loretta Lynch, somebody who comes and stands in her shoes still has the FBI to answer to, or to at least discuss this with, the vast majority of, and the bulk of the evidence that they've collected so far. So the idea that getting rid somehow of Loretta Lynch changes the outcome of the investigation, I think is a little bit of a stretch.
So then what do we think? She went in there, they talked about their grandkids, and they talked about where he's traveling to play golf while his wife's under investigation, and he said, we're all good, right? Hey, thank you very much, and leaves the door?
That's what she said. He hasn't commented, and we have no reason to believe that she would lie about it.
First of all, she only commented because she got caught. I mean, that's the reason she commented. She got caught because we talked about this today. This is they're acting as if there is no one in the world of media we live in that now none of this would come out. And Bill Clinton, he hasn't said anything. Why would he? What does he have to say? He's not a current office holder. She is. She's the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. Shame on her.
Danielle, you going to answer that?
I mean, I think that I'm not an enormous amount of disagreement. I think that this was a huge mistake. I do not think that this was something calculated by Bill Clinton, because I do not think it actually serves his purposes. I think that she should recuse herself. And as I said, as a Democrat, this is the last thing that people who believe that the process should go forward in the way that processes should, without political interference, without any of these other things that we've seen. I want this to be clean, and this is not clean, and I'm angry about it, frankly.
Well, you should be angry about it, because as a Democrat, it's embarrassing. But let me tell you something else. This is the same Attorney General who 10 days ago said, you know how you defeat terrorism? With love. Okay? So,
does that bother you? Does that bother you? Me. Bothers me.
We clearly have different opinions about the use of language as it relates to terrorism. Do you think
loving ISIS is the answer?
All you need is love.
I think what she meant was loving each other. The idea that intolerance breeds this kind of radicalization, and there's been study after study, the idea that we should be open to people of all different stripes, all different religions, and not separate people out on the basis of who they are, what they stand for.
Well, hey, hold it. That's a wonderful statement, except she was speaking in Orlando where there was a mass terrorist attack with 49 dead Americans. I don't care if they're gay, straight, sexual. It's irrelevant. They're dead Americans. And the fact of the matter is that wasn't to, we're tolerant. Here's the problem. The jihadists aren't. I mean, that's the problem. And this is the administration narrative. All right.
Jay, I think you're going to join us on TV tonight about this. We'll see you then. Danielle, thank you. 800